Folks, hello and welcome to Tavern Chat. I'm your host, Eric Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR, and I've got an interesting one for you. So, I was sent this earlier today, from the OSR RPG group, I believe on Facebook. Don't think it's me. And it's from one Justin Soroyas. But Justin apparently now has about 40 up on drive through. This post that he's highlighting for me is from 8 years ago, but not 8 years ago to the day. Apparently, it is Tuesday, but my initial post was September 20th, 2016. But then he goes, wow, this marks 8 years since Tenkar posted me, an RPG novice trying to make something new on his website. Instead of asking me about the project or providing a few words of advice, he encouraged mm, he encouraged his readers to make fun of my work when they really didn't know much about. Don't let anyone discourage you from making art. All right. So first off, it was a Kickstarter beneath the inverted church, and my parentheses was seduced the doors. WTF? What the actual fuck? So I didn't remember this at all. So I was like, all right, I'm going to have to go and find a post. And initially I was looking at the second, third. I had to go back and look at it again. I thought it was the 20th. So he was off by a day, but no big deal. We can adjust. So, that looks really small. Let's see if I can embiggen this any. Still too small. There we go. All right. So we're going to go over this again. It's an almost 8-year-old post. I didn't remember this at all, but let's see. Now here's the kicker, folks. And just so you all remember, if you are going to be somebody who is going to go to Kickstarter or Indiegogo or any of these other platforms to raise money for your project, remember you are essentially putting your hand out. Okay? You're asking for money to put something together based upon the faith in your abilities. Now, if you're an unproven creator, that's a lot of faith to request from people. So you got to put your best foot forward. You got to be clear. You got to be concise. You got to make sense. So I'm going to go to my initial post from September 20th, 2016. When I read the Kickstarter page for Beneath the Inverted Church, I couldn't stop cringing. And yes, there are some Kickstarters that aren't good. Listen, if you approach me before your Kickstarter goes live and say, hey, can you look at my Kickstarter page? Can you tell me if there's anything I need to do? I freely do it. I've never asked for money for it. I don't call myself a consultant on Kickstarters, but I am happy to give pages a once over and point out anything that I might think is blatantly bad. Might not help. Again, I don't charge for the service. But I'm not going to reach out to you if I think your Kickstarter page looks like crap to tell you how to fix it. That's not my job. Your job, if you're going to ask for money and put your hand out, is to literally make sure you're putting your best foot forward when you do so. Strangely, not so much for the adult content. It certainly isn't mature, but from the sheer absurdity of it. The serialized, mature tabletop RPG with 27 maps and reversed back cover. Beneath can be played with almost any existing RPG system. And there's an issue with that. Because now, if you look at drive-through now, it says system agnostic, any system or no system. That's not true. This is definitely D20 OSR style system. Okay? Look at that above quote. First, it's not an RPG that we're being presented with. We're being presented with an adventure scenario. It's an adventure for use with RPGs. Second, as for almost any existing RPG system, that much is true as long as it's D20 based. You got hit points, armor class, speed, and statistics, which they range at least from 9 to 16. Strength, dexterity, constitution, wisdom, intelligence, charisma. So, I mean, attacks 2d6. On a 6, the Panther trips and PCs gain 2 hit points. I don't know. There's a big preview. If you go to drive-through, you can download the preview. I think it's like 66 pages. You can look at the itself. This might be some of my audience might really appreciate this. I don't know. Maybe if you like some of Wenger's weirder stuff, maybe this will fall into your yard. But no, you can't use it with Savage Worlds. You can't use it with GURPS, Traveler, Fate. It's D20 based. And these, to me, are not the best looking maps. And not really readable. That's me. Again, I don't do great mapping, which is why I use software for it. But if you're gonna ask for money, it should be very presentable, and that's part of what should be presentable. So I continue. Now I know what you're saying. Really, it can only get better, right? So what makes this series for adults only? Now, I would not call this for adults. I would just call this, I don't know, cringy teens. I mean, players will be encouraged to seduce doors open. What this means exactly is up to the GM, so there is room for improvisation, both coy or candid. Players can either be reserved to go all in. Now, I've mentioned this, I'm pretty sure, in other videos. When I gained from my players in high school and college, and I GM'd, I had a player who was always trying to hit on the tavern wenches and wanted to role play it. And he wanted to role play the private encounter that he was hoping to have. And I'm like, dude, I'm not doing that with you. I don't want to know. I don't need to know. I refuse to know. So, players will encounter randomized sexual atrocities and treats within the undungeon. A D100 chart dictates what randomized scenes players witness. Some are benign, some are graphic. All of them drive the narrative intention of the plot. Furthermore, there is one scene with a more graphic D20 chart that made me decide to market this series to adults only. So you were going to have sexual atrocities and treats in this, and you weren't going to market it just to adults only? Mind-blowing. Yes, you seduce doors open. I definitely don't want my players explaining to me how they're going to caress, stroke, or otherwise seduce a door. Besides, who the fuck would want to seduce a door anyway? I've heard of folks having a shoe fetish. I don't recall anyone whacking off to a door. The thought alone makes me cringe. By the way, do you think that one scene mentioned above is a rape scene? I'll bet you 2 well-endowed doors that it is. Randomized sexual atrocities and treats. There's a way to treat adult subject matter, and I'm pretty sure this isn't it. A PC may, definitely don't have to, perform some kind of sexual act on themselves or another PC in front of the mirror door to avoid stress entirely and open the door. The PC or PCs don't have to describe what they are doing if it is private. they can make the other PCs and Hannah, who was one of the NPCs, turn away. If the act is private, have the PC or PCs either whisper the act to the GM, no, or have them write it down and pass the GM the paper. The GM should use their digression. The word should be discretion. By the way, this is something else I'm going to point out. If you're doing a Kickstarter and if this stuff is on your page where you're making your sales pitch and you can't use the proper words, you're not going to instill faith in your further product. Now, again, this individual, Justin, has done at least 40 products that are up on drive-thru, so God bless, they're creative and they're creating. I can't tell you that there's an audience for this. The collected version has an Electrum selling rating. But I don't know if your average players are going to fall into that. I don't know. Don't make your players so uncomfortable they don't want to continue. How about if the DM doesn't want to continue? The other way to open the mirror door is to look into the mirror. This will trigger a D100 plus 2D20 chart of weird scenes that the PCs will see. The door will open, but the PCs might accumulate stress against their constitution. So, and I wrap it up with the last thing I want to hear is the sexual fantasies of my fellow gamers. Sure, we could use our digression, but I think discretion would be a far better choice. Would the scenario work for certain groups? Sure. If you have a door fetish, I'm sure it would play well. And maybe a group that digs sexual atrocities. Again, this is a hard sell. I'm not saying there's not an audience for this, even now. But this isn't what you're selling this to gamers in general. Or maybe not in general if it's the OSR RPG group. I don't know. And of course, make sure your RPG system is D&D derived. Because otherwise the crunch is worthless. Sure, listen, I can run anything with anything as long as the genre is the same. I can interpret. I that's great, but that's not what you have here. Just pointing that out. The art, though, pretty cool. And then the whole conversation goes on. Listen, I took a semi-lighthearted approach to it because this is the subject matter that, hey, I'm in my 50s. When I wrote this 8 years ago, I was 49. I don't get none of my friends get the kicks out of role-playing sexual encounters, let alone seducing doors, mirrors. I don't get it, and I don't really want to get it. So, but the fact that 8 years later, this is still coming up, as you could see on the screen before. Maybe my post, this post, encouraged Justin to put a little bit more effort into what he was doing, and not the topic itself, but in the work itself and using the right words. I mean, the topic could be over the top, and if you present it well, you know what? It'll find its audience. But if your topic is over the top and you can't present it well, you're not going to be taken serious. So, yes, that's why I'm talking about something from 8 years ago. Almost. Folks, there is a link on the bottom of the screen. tenkars-tavern.games/gygax. It'll take you to what is a smorgasbord of OSR, Call of Cthulhu, D20, 5e, Cascades, gaming material from Luke, from Gary, from Ernie, and a number of others. So if you make a purchase, it helps support this channel. Other than that, there's a live stream tomorrow night. 8 p.m. It'll be on YouTube, Rumble, and X. Hope to see you then. Be safe, be well, God bless, roll those dice, rolling well. And I'll catch you on the flip side.